Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna sayyidana wa sanadana wa nabiyyana ومولانا محمد عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحهم إنه كان حليما غفورا صدق الله العظيم وصدق مولانا النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك ومن الشاهدين ومن الشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He talks about the seven heavens, the earth, and all those in them glorify Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is not a single thing that does not glorify His praises, but you simply cannot comprehend their glorification. He is indeed most forbearing, all forgiving. So as we know, this month of Ramadan is now coming to a close. As sad as it is to say this, but this is the reality of the situation. That when, today is the 26th fast, tonight is the 27th night, we have our Khatma Quran tonight, so inshallah we request everybody to come join us. We'll have a long dua tonight. There's a iftar hosted by our brothers from the Cricket Club of Charlotte tonight, so inshallah please come join them as well. And we'll also be doing some remembrance for our brothers and sisters around the world, especially our brothers and sisters in Gaza, Sudan, Congo, places where there's just atrocities going on. But at the same time, we cannot forget who we are supposed to worship, who we are supposed to talk to in our times of need, and who we are supposed to remember at all times. And that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this ayah it talks about the seven heavens, the earth, and all those in them glorify subhanahu wa ta'ala. That all of them, they glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the blade of the grass to the hummingbird, to any and all animals, they glorify and they thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for each and everything which they have and each and every blessing which they have. And truly the human mind cannot comprehend that. A few weeks ago I was watching, it was sort of like a Muslim documentary, if you can call it this, where a brother in Australia went to this small town. And in the small town there was a very vibrant population of Muslims. And some of them were indigenous Muslims, meaning Australian Muslims, and the others were the children of Albanians. And they had come almost 100 years ago, and they had essentially lost their deen. A lot of them had lost their deen, and after they lost their deen, a few things happened, very unfortunate events, which some of the families, half of them left the deen altogether. They became other religious communities, or they left religion altogether. And when this happened, that family, they felt the pain of their own family members leaving the deen. And so they became very religious. They found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again. They started seeking their ways. They started learning the Quran. They started doing all of these things because they felt that pain. Those pangs of pain which hurt them, we can't even imagine that. So while they're having this pain and they're trying to find their way back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of the brothers, they became very religious. And so this brother, he went to visit one of the brothers. His name was Binyamin. And these brothers, all of them, they're very, very wealthy. Their father, when he moved from Albania to Australia, he sort of was a very skilled worker. And he started his own coffee company. And you can even Google it. It's called Jack Murat's, coffee. And if you Google it, it comes up. And so this brother Binyamin, mashallah, subhanallah, very religious, very pious individual, he had a very beautiful garden. Very beautiful garden in his backyard. And so they asked him a question, that why are you so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is your connection? And he picks like a flower. And when he picks this flower, he says to them, look at the inside of this flower. Look at the intricate pattern of this flower. Look at the bees that come from each flower to the next flower and they pollinate it. Look at the details of how the stems come out of the flower. Look at, everything, the colors, and how beautiful they are, how different they are, and how everything comes together to become one flower. He's like, is this not enough of a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you? And honestly, when I was hearing this man, this elder of the Muslim community, explain a flower with such detail, It literally blew my mind. I was like, subhanAllah, he's seeing so many of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one small flower. A flower which we ignore, a flower which we don't pay attention to, and a flower whose importance we don't even understand in our whole ecosystem. Of how the plants work, how the trees work, how everything works. You know, they have these campaigns against deforestation, right? Don't cut down the trees. We're like, oh, why don't you cut down the trees, make more developments? We don't understand the importance of these trees, how they're cleaning our air, how they're preserving us, how when there's a tree and it's shading the house, how even the electricity bill comes down. Things like that we don't understand, we don't comprehend it. But yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran that each and everything on this earth, each and everything in the sky, and each and everything in the Jannah glorifies and praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I remember back when I used to go to CPCC, we used to have an astronomy professor. He was a very good professor. And he was teaching us. And subhanAllah, sometimes even as non-Muslims, they teach us things that renews our iman. They tell us things which renews our iman. I remember our professor, the professor of astronomy, he was telling us, there's a documentary, we watched that documentary, and from the documentary he's explaining that the sky, the amount of stars that we have in the sky, the grains of sand that we have on this earth, the stars in the sky are more in number than even that. Now, can our mind even comprehend how many stars there are out there? And then furthermore, when you look at the stars, they say a lot of these stars, that they've already exploded, they're gone. We're so far behind basically to see the explosion and the star to go away that we don't even know this. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making all of the system operate. All of the system operate. And our mind can't even comprehend it. You know, when somebody wants to build a house, they have to put, a base, then they have to put the pillars, and they have to do all of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the sky. There's no pillars holding the sky up. The clouds are not being held up by strings. None of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this whole system operating. He has these skies hanging. And if we want to hang something, we got to put a pretty strong string, because if it breaks and falls on your head, you're going to get hurt. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the sky in such a way that nothing is holding it up. It's suspended on its own, not due to anything of our own doing. We're seeing right now what's happening in Gaza. We see what's happening in Sudan. We see what's happening in Congo. We see what's happening to our Uyghur brothers and sisters, where they're being force-fed pork, where they're being force-drunk, alcoholic beverages. Their children are being put in concentration camps to cleanse their mind of Islam. We see all of this happening, and we're not even able to provide the food needed to our brothers and sisters overseas. Could you imagine the disaster it would be if we were put in charge of taking care of the world on our own, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was not controlling the system? It would be an utter disaster. The birds who go out and bring food to their baby birdlings, they would all die. Because we would be so greedy, we would keep everything for ourselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really blessed us. Truly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us by not giving us control of everything. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm so smart, I could control everything on my own, and I know what I'm doing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us by not giving us complete control and complete autonomy over our own decisions. Because we see how the world operates right now. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying. Right? We don't even know the numbers in each of these countries. And then you finally hear somebody say, oh, we feel bad about it now. Maybe we should give them some aid. There's 30, 40 people, 1,000 people have died. Maybe they deserve some food now. Million people starving. Maybe they deserve some food now. This is the condition of the human being. This is the sickness of the human being. That we're seeing people dying. We're seeing people suffering. Okay, maybe they deserve some aid now. No, we won't stop killing them. Maybe they deserve some food now. So we'll fill their stomachs and then we'll kill them. This is a situation of what's happening around the world. And we're living at a time of such affluence in certain countries that we throw away hundreds of football fields worth of food in each city Every single year, when our iftars happen, and a lot of people have asked me to talk about this, when our iftars happen, we see the garbage can, and if we separated the plates and the food inside of the garbage can, we would have more food in there than the plates or the paper products we're throwing away. This is our situation of the people whose brothers and sisters are being slaughtered on a daily basis. That we're not even taking care of the food. We're not even worried about the morsels we're throwing away. You know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, what he said? He said that even if a morsel is to fall on the ma'idah, on the table, on the dastarkhan, whatever you want to call it, the spread, you pick it up, you dust it off, and you eat it. If you have a little bit too much iftar, you picked it up by accident, take it home, eat it for suhoor. Don't throw it away. If you pick up a water bottle, you take 2 sips, leave it on the side. That's not the way we do things. The other day, I believe it was in the hall. It was on that table back there where they're putting the janamaz right now, the sajada. There's a table. There was about 20, 25 bottles, almost full. Either we had to put them in the plants or either we had to throw them away. This is how we treat clean drinking water. And then we have our brothers and sisters in Kenya, Dr. Saab knows. In Kenya, these people, he shared a picture a few days ago in one of the groups. It shows a young boy. He has his head in the water. He has his head and the water is so dirty. We wouldn't even touch it in this country. And he's putting his head because he wants to drink some water. These are our brothers and sisters. If Allah would have switched the roles, we would have been there, they would have been here. How would we have felt? How would we have felt? So if somebody doesn't have the ability or capability to donate overseas, right? Let's say your financial capability doesn't allow you. The least you can do is avoid wasting. The least you can do is avoid wasting. And if we do this, we will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because those morsels which we waste, we're not giving it to anybody. We're putting it in the bank balance of the shaitan. He's happy when we waste food. So we really have to reassess and readdress how we look at Ramadan, how we look at our deen. And I'm not trying to put everybody down or anybody down. All I'm saying is, we have a few days left. 27, 28, 29, 30, possibly 30, right? You have 4 nights. From right now, 5 days. We'll still count today. Let's all try to do a better job so that we please Ar-Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala and we fall into His good graces and not His anger. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq, may He give us a better understanding, and may He give us the opportunity that we may also sing the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like the birds do, like the fishes in the sea do, like the blades of glass do, like the trees do, like each and every solitary animal does, so that we gain His pleasure and we gain a position in the Firdausul A'la. Jazakallah khair. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.